Welcome to Ecclesia Framework. It's May 24th, 2017. So we're going to go over some of the encounter guidelines. Let's remember that we are all equal priests, so we can all contribute to the facilitation of this group. Don't be afraid of silence or sharing if you see something different, but let's all try and stay together and honor everyone's contribution. We'll step through Jesus the door and enter the veil of life at the Holy of Holies, moving beyond the inner court. We're going to engage all heavenly hosts to assist us. And so let's right now just engage the cross where we want to give over our own issues and choose to die to self. So let's give ourselves a second to just do that. Because on these ascensions, we want to stay in heavenly places. We don't want to bring in fleshly interests or agendas. So we'll just do that quickly. So awesome. Let's engage the blood of the Lamb. And we put our body under our soul under our spirit. And we offer ourselves as a living sacrifice, renewing our first love covenant and choosing to open all our gates. And we seal off all ungodly portals and dimensions. We invite the seven spirits, wisdom's handmaidens, the cloud of witnesses, the men in white linen to join us, all the heavenly hosts. And I think for today, I'm sensing that we want to ask Holy Spirit to give us some more revelation on the Melchizedek Order. So if we want to put our desires on that and see what we're shown, I think that's a really good idea. So whenever anybody senses something or perceives something or hears, we can use our five senses to help bring us revelation.
I saw him give us the ephod with the stones. So I don't know if he wants, and we're kind of looking at the stones. I don't know if we're supposed to do something with those.
Amen.
And then I also got, you know how the word tells us that we are righteousness in Christ? Well, I saw that everyone has been deposited with Melchizedek.
Amen.
So his order is with us always.
I got the word induction or induction ceremony.
I love the vision of the ephod.
And I'm sensing as we continue to, we're still looking at the ephod, the stones in the ephod, and those stones are just, it's kind of hard to describe what I'm seeing. They're just like vibrating, and there seems to be some things like something coming out of them. I don't know how to describe it. I'll continue to look to see if I can describe it better.
I see them spinning and lighting up, and you can hear it.
Okay, that's probably what I was getting.
And I'm looking at one, and I can actually go into it, just look around, and it's weird because then everything is that color.
Well, what I was getting about the ephod is how they represent the tribes, and how Israel is a blueprint to navigate the heavens. So possibly we're being shown a way to navigate or access the heavens.
Yes, look, I'm sort of concurring with that, really. I think what I was seeing was I saw a whole load of question marks around Melchizedek, and I knew what that meant. It meant that Melchizedek was the source of many answers and knowledge that we don't currently have, and that by getting used to engaging him, that can fill in a lot of understanding about heaven that we don't currently have.
I was getting the same thing, Jane. I just felt, actually felt Melchizedek come and say hello. But then he seemed to get so excited and turned and said, "Come, I've got so much to show you." So I feel the same thing, that there's just so much that he wants to show us.
So I wonder if we should just have this openness that we, are willing to get infused knowledge from him and just ask for that download.
I'm just going to throw this out there. Earlier, I just saw like rays of light, almost like what you would picture from the sun. And then I saw rings within it, like circles within it. And it was more of a bright yellow. So I was just thinking of the spirit of understanding. So it felt like a portal to me of understanding, perhaps associated with all of this.
Yeah, actually, I was engaging about the word portal yesterday because someone raised the difference between a portal and an everlasting door. And I've always struggled with portal and what it meant, and I don't see it in the Bible. But I sense right now that a portal is really an everlasting door. And when I've opened a lot of everlasting doors in the past, and one of them, I'm pretty sure from memory, was a Melchizedek door. So I wonder if we are being called to just open that door to release that understanding of the order of Melchizedek.
Corporate style for the Ecclesia, and then who we represent.
Yeah, I saw it like as a light and ringlets, like a drawing. I just saw it like a drawing, and it was like drawing higher. It was like something to go into that was drawing higher. So perhaps it was coming, through the door that wasn't open. Yeah, that needs to be open.
Well, and it seems that everyone who does desire to get more understanding of him is given a lot of understanding. Like Eric, he was desiring to understand, and he's just been getting like constant downloads from him. So I think
Yeah.
this is true about opening up this door.
I'm going to say this. This is what I saw in the beginning, but now I'm seeing it may be relevant. When we first started, I saw Melchizedek standing at this desk, and it reminded me of one of those desks where, like in a company, you go to get supplies or something. And I felt the word distributor came to me. And but I don't think he just of wealth, but that he distributes and provides a lot of things that are needed to do what we need. What we need is what I guess I would say.
Wow.
A supplier is a word, I guess, to sum it up.
Well, that's probably why I heard about the deposits, that there's a deposit of him in everybody.
I just heard the word and felt the word like echo, like the light echoing, like it's so far reaching. Like it just goes right through you and out of you. And it's just, yeah.
So how would we corporately then open up this everlasting door for the Ecclesia on the order of Melchizedek? What would you say, Elliot?
How did you know?
Because I know you know.
Did you see me? I got to very clearly agree. Like we have the intention individually, and then we kind of join together in agreement. It's kind of like we're all pitching in to grab the handle to open it, and then just to remove the hinges. So it's never closed.
All right, so should we all set our intentions individually on this and then all grab the door handles together, open it up, remove the hinges?
Yeah.
When I've opened everlasting doors, I keep having this repeated experience that you feel like you open the door initially on yourself. So you pull the two door handles towards you, which seems to open up the revelation first on yourself, and you receive that revelation personally of whatever type of everlasting door it is. And then you have the opposite, where you then push it outwards into the atmosphere of the earth. And it seems to then whatever's behind that, whether it's Melchizedek or it's an everlasting door of truth, that truth then gets pushed out into the atmosphere of the earth. If you can see what I mean.
That makes a lot of sense to me, Jane, because I was thinking that some people are already releasing revelation on the Melchizedek. I mean, Ian, for example, just finished his book on that, and he's been ministering for a long time. So it's not like we're opening something that hasn't been opened. It's just that what you said is that we're opening that for ourselves and letting that then come through us, and then calling it to come through and influence more of the body of Christ or the Ecclesia.
Yeah, because the truth then has to come through us, and we're the vessel, but we have to agree to that and also absorb the revelation first. We can't really release anything if we haven't actually absorbed the DNA of it and also assented to that fact that we want that released into the atmosphere of the earth.
Yeah, that's another agreement piece. It actually seems to me like that's the first agreeing with, and then receiving the heaven part, and then that's like the bringing the door in, and then when we push it out, that's when it's released on the earth. And so we're it's like that's our participation as a gateway between taking heaven and bringing it to earth. But in this case, there's a little more logic around it, but it does seem like we're acting as gates when we do that.
Mm. So should we just open that door initially on ourselves?
Yes.
See what we discern. Is anyone getting anything? Because what I'm discerning is that if you're not, you have to ask a question. And the question I'm asking is, how does the Order of Melchizedek relate to, is there a higher order above the courts, a more accelerated way of dealing with judgment and justice beyond the courts? But one question, we do know that Melchizedek is the chief chancellor of the treasury room of heaven. So one question you could ask is, what treasure? What does that mean? What is that treasure? And another question is, Melchizedek is without genealogy, so we could ask, what is there a more accelerated form of being without genealogy through Melchizedek, other than going through a lot of sort of individual items with bloodline cleansing?
I don't know if this is relevant, but when I opened the door on myself, I saw this light just pouring in. And then I was just kind of basking in that. And then I heard and kind of saw like the stars and the moon and the sun.
Okay, what I'm getting is that because the throne, God's throne, is supported by justice and righteousness, that even Melchizedek was operating back in the beginning. And I see him working with wisdom and how he was even a supplier back then.
Well,
I was getting, go ahead.
It's definitely wisdom and understanding, because when I opened up the door, I just got flooded with the spirit of understanding. It was the yellow for sure, yellow spirit. So it's wisdom and understanding, I believe, that he works alongside.
I'm getting that too. What all of you ladies have said so far. When I opened the door, it was just like light flooding through me. But then all of a sudden, and I'm getting also with the spirit of the fear of the Lord, like we had a week ago. So it's like they're all kind of together. But I just felt like the best way to describe it is an all-consuming fire, just like a roaring. First, it was just light, yellow light, and then it was just like this, just powerful. It was pleasant, but it was just a powerful roaring fire, almost like if you walked into a house that was burning down, where every inch was fire. It was just rolling and roaring fires, and then all of a sudden, it was like on a decline, like a very overwhelming river of gold, just gold, liquid gold, just like a rushing, mighty river. And then I just saw an eye out of nowhere, like just like an eye, and I was just getting like eyes to see, like just so many different facets of Melchizedek. And it even reminded me of an encounter I had, and how Melchizedek also is filled with such a servant's heart. So like all that was just kind of all together wrapped up.
That's good.
I'm going to say this too. I'm sorry, were you about to say something, Jane?
I've just got a response to Donna's thing on the stars. So
Okay, go ahead.
if that's related, if you've got something related to Lyndon's, say that first.
Actually, it's a little different, but I'm going to take a chance and say it. I saw Morpheus from the Matrix, and I kind of felt like that Melchizedek is kind of like Morpheus was, and that he was instrumental, and we're like Neos, if you will, and he was instrumental in helping Neo understand his true identity and coming into it. And not only did he do that, but he also showed him what supply was available to him. And I don't know if y'all remember that scene where he was training him how to fight, and he showed him that big, long, white room of guns that were available to him. And so it was like he was showing him what supply was available to him in order to fulfill his assignment in the Matrix. That might be way out, but I'm just going to submit that. That's just what I saw. That's what I'm just saying. That's what I'm just going to say.
I just see Melchizedek as just a total accelerated source of supply for lots of different issues we have. And when we operate in lower ages, they're way more burdensome, academic, protocol, almost religious. And operating in the order of Melchizedek takes us to a whole new level of ease, acceleration, peace, that just catapults us really to a new way of operating. So I would agree with what you're saying, Simone.
Can I say this too really quick? Do you all remember how Neo learned so quickly in that fighting software that Morpheus trained him with, and how accelerated he learned Fujitsu? So again, it was an accelerated learning in order for him to fully come into his true identity. So again, that's just, to me, it's just supporting that even more.
Yeah, and I just see that's what we've got to have. We've got to set our hearts on more accelerated ways. Otherwise, we'll get so bogged down and overwhelmed, and the protocol we've learned will actually become religious, because eventually we'll start doing it as a system to get something instead of out of relationship. And that's why the moment we go higher and higher ages, it engages that beautiful spirit of exploration and revelation and discovery, which keeps the freshness and keeps the eating off the tree of life instead of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So it moves us that way. And I see that's my engagements with Melchizedek. That's what's happened. But on that thing you said about the stars, Donna, and the that I actually think was an answer to my question, because I suddenly got revelation. My whole question was there more accelerated ways other than the courts of dealing with judgment and justice? And I realized I have actually just had an encounter a few days ago, which is an accelerated form of that. And I realized when you said stars, it was engaging the star houses. and having dominion over the star houses is how we bring a whole new accelerated way of dealing with any issues of injustice or misalignment, really, with any governmental aspect that's happening. And that's what happened to me. This encounter was just profound. I was in eternity, and I was over the star houses, and I was just seeing how I could have governed them. And I've then shown all these different ways in which I could govern them. It was just incredible. And it was just a massive accelerated way of dealing with things.
You know, this is what Dr. O's first book is about. Manipulating the stars, which is a part of stepping outside of time and lining them up like we need to in order to do whatever our assignment is. So, and you know, I feel like this is coming full circle, so I'm gonna say this quickly. Do you remember in the beginning when I said that how Israel is a blueprint of the heavens? And that's a term that Dr. O uses a lot, meaning that if we study how God dealt with Israel, there are keys in there, or revelation, not that we necessarily have to study it, but there's revelation there of how to navigate the heavens, which I think this is a part of. So really, I'm saying the same thing that you were saying, Jane. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, because what it is the star houses of the 12 tribes. So as long as we don't freak out that, you know, it's sort of all about astronomy and astrology, it's just bringing back the good DNA from the 12 tribes of Israel back into the earth to restore as it was. Instead of what's happened is the weaknesses of the 12 tribes have corrupted the earth, and we're operating a lot in the weaknesses of the tribes instead of the strengths. So we're actually trying to align back to the strengths of those tribes. Each one had a characteristic that was so at the heavenly blueprint. And I think that's why it captivated me, because I'd been currently doing an awful lot of court cases. I mean, sometimes like 3 court cases a day I'd be doing for this aspect and that aspect. And in the end, it was like, oh, you know, when's it ever going to end? There's just multiple layers. But the beauty and the freshness of going in and ruling over the star houses was just magnificent, because you saw the greatness to what that we're called into as sons. And I saw this is what manifest sons are about. So it's not getting into the minute details of life, you know, oh, we've got this issue in our society. Like I was going in a lot for homelessness, and, you know, and I wanted to see that change. But it's just a never-ending, what's the word, mire of problems. And also you focus on the problems, not the higher we get in the ages, we see the positive blueprint, we see the magnificence, not the problems. So that's what's great about going higher and higher to the ages, because we don't focus on what the enemy's doing or destruction that's been brought, but we focus on the beauty of that blueprint, which is really restoring the DNA.
Can you give a specific example of what you did, Jane?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of us I've had other people confirm they're doing this as well, is because we're light beings. So much of what we do as we move up the ages is about light transference, and also about hands. We do an awful lot of moving your hands, raising your hands to rule, like holding your scepter as you're ruling over something. Well, I've been doing this for a long time now, but this was an extension in the star houses, was that I first of all, I set my heart on my tribe, and I engaged with that original tribe, the firstborn, and who they were in eternity. And so I could feel that relationship there. I could feel that bonding, honor, camaraderie, that we were one tribe, and we get each other, and we it's like going home, really. It's you just go back to where you originally came from, and it's just magnificent. But I have this thing now where I've been shown that it's kind of like a sweeping of the hands to control light. So I sort of sweep my hands over the star house, and then actually I think I ended up doing all 12. Yeah, because I've done so much with cleansing gates in New Jerusalem and everything. I've done heaps on that. So I was ready for all this. And I've seen this huge picture of how all the 12 tribes need to come together and reunite in New Jerusalem. So that's probably a precursor, and you probably need to do an awful lot of that to get to this stage. But I just almost, all I did was almost just sweep my hands over these star houses, and set my heart on governing them. And what happened was, I saw this tremendous, like, bolts of lightning came from each star house down onto the earth. And that was what kind of, so I knew that by setting my heart and desire on governing, I could see there was some transference of light which had made a difference to the DNA of the earth.
Yeah, I do agree. There's a acceleration that's being revealed now. Um, I have been feeling, stunts are, or all this. I feel like God has been simplifying all this to me, in the sense that He's been showing me it's about, union, and just realizing you're in the Father. And I was kind of meditating on being in the Father of the light. And I saw myself. He was on his throne, and I was sort of an extension of connected to him, and I had a throne next to him, or kind of on the side, but more to the front. And the lightning and light was flowing from him through to me, through to the earth, the light and the energy of God. And I see, I sense, pretty much what everyone is saying now. There's this acceleration that's coming, and a simplicity in just receiving by faith the revelation of being one with the Father. And I feel like, in the courtrooms, we're still sort of asking, and still, in some of the lower realms, there's a sort of I'm seeing a lot of people in that kind of disconnect, not realizing their oneness and, their authority. But, as we go into the higher realms, there's a sense of connection and fulfillment and revelation, and sort of realizing you're an extension of Him, and who He is flowing through us. And I kind of feel connected to what Simone was saying about being Neo, realizing you are the one, you know, that just coming into agreement with that testimony of God is in you, and then letting Him flow through you out of that. And it brings this acceleration because, like Neo in the training room, he realized it wasn't a function of skill, it was a function of understanding in the mind that he already had access to that program. It was downloaded in his mind. So it won't be a lot of the doing that's been going on cut off. People are going to come into a lot of acceleration into realizing, you know, we have the light of God flowing. We have, you know, I see ahead, and I'm seeing people who are going to come into realization they have the DNA of God. They won't do any of that DNA cleansing. They will just come into, you know, that revelation. So a lot of those doing, you know, is gonna just, you know, we're gonna see it from his perspective in a higher realm and realize a lot of what we've been doing has actually been a lower realm.
Mm. Yeah,
They're just
absolutely.
going to be.
I really feel a sense to emphasize something about what I first encountered, and with just the did I interrupt you, Glory?
Oh no.
Okay, I was just making sure. It was like a flood of light, and then it was like a flood of fire, and then that flood of like just a powerful river, like the might of it. And before I actually opened the door, I anticipated such power, you know, such power coming and such light coming that I kind of saw myself posturing in a very humble, like almost like a bowing, like on the ground of wherever, but just before the door. But then I also saw myself standing before the door. And it was almost like a dichotomy of such might and such power, but at the same time, like such peace and tranquility and effortlessness. Like I was in such a place of rest while I was experiencing more might and power than I ever really experienced. And so I thought of like, even like mem, like the waters, the might of the waters and the spirit of might, even like all these different, you know, of the seven spirits of God, even like just all those qualities in this understanding of Melchizedek. And I just felt like it was a door that was open that is much more than we realize that we opened, and it is to go in us, the light and the power and all that, and through us. And it's actually such a place of ease, but such a place of abundance and strength and might, like unlimited. That's how I was experiencing it.
So if anyone hasn't got any more revelation on what they've personally received, we could just open that door now. Do you feel ready to open that door out?
Outwards? Yeah.
Yeah, to the atmosphere of the earth. And but remember, you're that gate as well, so it kind of comes through you.
I saw like in heaven, like there's a quick transition between the reaching and the releasing. It's like as soon as we reach for the things of Him, it's like almost like it can be an instant release of it at the same time. That's how I was
Yeah.
getting it. It's like it's like before you can even finish reaching, it's almost like the releasing's almost happened because of the accelerated ways.
Yeah.
I'm observing that every time I ascend. So, yes.
Yeah, and I find I can't but help release it out. I cannot keep it for myself. It's like I have to release it to others, and then I have to tell others about the revelation I've had. I can't keep it in. It's as if it's just not the culture of heaven to keep all this revelation in yourself or for yourself.
It doesn't fit.
Yeah, it's the culture is to share and to release for everyone. Otherwise, it can become a totally indulgent place where this is all about our encounter experience, our growing in wisdom and power, which can become very corrupting if we're not wanting others to have that same understanding, authority, and power, but we're wanting it for ourselves. Gosh, that's really dangerous.
So Donna was saying at the beginning that she saw the ephod, with the 12 tribes on. And then Jane, what you were saying about governing the star, the seed, governing the star houses. Is this what we are then receiving and releasing?
Oh, that's a good question.
I would have. Excuse me. I feel like kind of overwhelmed about this Melchizedek order. I feel like it's multidimensional. He was kind of showing me how he would teach Adam how to cultivate Eden, because when the original Hebrew words for tend the garden or something like that was really about worship. And I feel like the Melchizedek order is really what it says it is. It has no genealogy. It has no beginning and really no ending. In that it's so multidimensional, multiverse, that I feel like it's a fabric between each age. Like you can't really get away from this order. I kept on seeing like him trying to teach Abraham, trying to teach Aaron and David about these different things in their life as best they could, of course, under the Old Testament. And that this Melchizedek order, I saw how the 12 chancellor houses, I find it funny that, on the page, on the Ecclesia framework page, that we have the House of Treasures, or Treasury House, as the last one. And that's ironic because, the last should be first. And that his house kind of encompasses the other houses throughout the other chancellor's houses. So I'm going to I felt that when y'all saying the star systems and everything like that, it's like a blanket was over the star systems and the moon and the stars, because his name is the King of Righteousness, and he's the priest of the Most High God. So when we're restoring these houses or restoring whatever God is telling us to restore, we're restoring it out of our priesthood, out of the righteousness of God. So that's how we are stopping the corruptible nature in these storehouses or whatever it is into the righteousness of God. And I'm going to have to agree with what I think, was it Glory, that with the bloodline cleansing, this is Melchizedek Order is actually accelerating our DNA to be more like Jesus. Because if you think about it in the natural, our blood cells is always replenishing itself and reproducing. So I believe God was making an emphasis on blood so much was so it could be that root inside of us so we could realize just how powerful his blood is, and that his blood is constantly reproducing. His nature is always reproducing in us 24/7, even if we're aware of it or not.
So I see that, Michelle, what you said really is about the mandate is to release the understanding of the star houses and the restoration of the DNA. Actually, it's probably need another word than restoration. I've been asking Heaven, what is the word? Because restoring is, I see it's beyond restoring. It's bringing new, but I can't think of another word.
Right programming.
Recalibrating, maybe?
Recalibrate. I don't know if it's anything because
No, right programming. Just
right program. Yeah,
like in the image of the Father.
Yes, yeah. But even beyond that, because I see when we've got the new heaven and the new earth, well, by creating the new heaven and the new earth, although that you could argue that's already existing in heaven.
Well, isn't it the expression of the Father's heart when he said, "Let us make man in our image and likeness," what he saw that to be? I was getting a crazy thought right at the very beginning, and I've kind of held on to it because I don't see it. But when you started talking about the, accelerated way of dealing with things and the star houses, Melchizedek was showing me memories. And so I don't know if that goes back into what the essence of the Father's heart was, his thoughts, when he said, "Let us make man," he was seeing what that was to be.
Well, if you look at the really, really big picture, how I see it to date is that we contribute to the building of the new heaven and the new earth, which leads then to living in the age of Zion and living in a new setup. But that new setup means that we can create it how we desire. So it goes beyond that just bringing in what is currently in new heaven and new earth, like no pain, complete justice, complete unity. Once we've got to that stage and that exists, we can then create things again like the Father did in first creation. We can then say, well, we want this there, we want this mountain, we want this whatever. So that's where we're getting to. That's the big picture, I see.
Like a co-creation opportunity. Like, at least in my world, there'll be at least one or two streams that have blueberry puree in them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we decide, I see that's what happens when we're in that. We get to create things, and that will be the fun of being there, because we will be like the creator, creating things. We won't just be living in this world that's being created for us and we have to accept the laws that exist. We will have the immense power to change the way it looks, but all in a good way, all within the bounds of, ultimately, we're not changing laws, that's probably wrong. We're changing the composition of what's in there, all within the bounds of those boundaries that we see in Revelation 21. So we won't be able to create anything evil. We won't be able to do anything against those boundaries that the Father has set. It will all be complete perfection, but within that we can create beauty. And that's why it'll be fun, because otherwise it would be deathly boring, wouldn't it, if it was all just living in one age.
Yeah. Well, the fog in this region smells like gardenias. And, you can swim in a jello lake.
Oh, yes. So I can see your creativity is being practiced somewhat.
Well, there's joy when you speak it, Jane. And I'm like, yeah.
Well, it's like being at Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, isn't it? You're just like, that's what you want. You want to be able to create this, and I would create everything out of chocolate, probably. Yeah.
Well, then you need the next neighborhood would be like all cream or something,
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah.
The more that we see it, the more we can have it. Whatever when we see, if we see it, we can have it. And so it's what you're saying, Jane, I believe too, is that the more that we see, the more we can live out of what we see. And the more we see of the perfection and of the more we see of what it's like to live in perfect peace and what that looks like, and what that looks like to live in the place of perfection, the more we can have it, the more we can release it, the more we can create with it.
Yeah. I feel also, this is my perspective of, I know it's not everyone's perspective. I feel like Zion is a representation of the dwelling of the Lord, which is kind of symbolic of who we are. We are the dwelling of the Lord. The way, it says, for the Lord has chosen Zion, he has desired it for his habitation. This is my resting place forever. Here I will dwell, for I've desired it. I will abundantly bless her provision. I will satisfy her needy with bread. That's it goes on and on, Psalms 132. And I feel like it's this awakening that's happening when we realize that every realm is in Christ and we are in him, and all that is required for us is to just receive that, and come to agreement with that testimony, and then begin to operate from that place. And I think we're still awakening, like Jane was saying, awakening to the realization of who we are in that place. And I feel like, it's when we operate from that revelation, it won't be something we are waiting for in the future. It's something we can access now and operate from. And I feel like even realms of creation are realms that we can access right now and begin to learn how to operate from that, in the sense that if we are one with the Creator, I and the Father are one, and we are seated with him and him, the Creator. And, you know, in that place where we're just moving in the mind of God and in the creator nature of God, once we because manifestation never comes until we realize this is who we are. And manifestation, you know, is secondary really, because it's just a fruit of our mindset and how we are postured. You know, it's the fruit. It's not you know, I hope you know what I'm saying. Oh, I'm getting what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I feel like sort of like we're gonna come into acceleration by awakening to to the understanding that every nature and aspect of the Father, we have access to it right now. Like we have full access to the creator realms, to the mind of Christ, you know, to Melchizedek, to all these realms and revelations right now. And, you know, accessed by the blood. And we can simplify, you know, things when we have that perspective and actually begin to operate from that place. You know, I was meditating, I and the creator are one. And I the other day, and it was a new thing for me. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm like, what? You know, and I did that a couple weeks ago, and in that moment, it's like this realm of light just opened up, and I realized I was in this realm of creation, and I was watching a lot of other people were there, and we were creating all kinds of stuff. Like they look like crystals or some kind of just objects full of light, which I could throw in the earth, and all this light will come from them and spread everywhere. And, you know, a lot of things were going on there. You know, I saw the flower of life. It was just a place full of mysteries. If, you know, even Albert Einstein was there, he was, you know, releasing all kinds of math equations and stuff, you know, things to do with creation. And what I've been recognizing is the access, you know, through the cross, through the blood, to any realm in the Father. And that totally simplifies and accelerates and gets us to a consciousness of, you know, letting that realm be expressed through us, and we begin to learn. I mean, this was just a new encounter for me, you know, not even knowing. I mean, I still feel like, okay, let me go back, you know, to that place and understand and, you know, learn more so I can see what was actually going on, because it was you know, a short moment. But I feel like a lot of the ritualistic, you know, what Jane was saying, a lot of the lower realms, you know, are becoming religious, and we need to let go of a lot of that.
Gloria, I really see where you're coming from now. I had a bit of an epiphany yesterday after one of your posts, and I realized that I could be in the age of Zion right now, and so I actually went there.
Wow.
Yeah, and I realized actually I have been doing an awful lot there, and I just didn't realize. And I think all the time we've been going into New Jerusalem and been investigating it,
Wow.
that really is the age of Zion. But we
Wow.
hadn't known, and also if we're creating stuff, we're actually operating in that age of Zion.
Yes.
So yeah, I suddenly saw where you were coming from. And I suppose my only question is, like I saw it before, I saw that we create our own reality in terms of new heaven and new earth, and we don't wait for this sudden change to happen to the heaven and earth, and then we'll be in it. I saw that a long time ago. So I see we can operate in it. But then my question is, oh no, but then so we're in there, and that's how we can bring forth it for the whole earth and the whole heaven to be
Do you think that
brought.
there's a, sorry, I didn't-
Yeah, go on.
do you think that there's, what we're just saying right now is about that the fullness of God is in us, and we are in the fullness. We're not in a
Yes.
part of God, and it's not a part of God that's in us. The fullness is in us, but what we are being awakened to is that reality.
Yeah.
We're not getting into the fullness. The fullness is in us because God is in us and we are in Him. We are awakening to what that means. And so that, what it does to me is it puts us into that place of intimacy
Yeah.
rather than in a place of, well, I've got to go and try and find my way to here, or try and find that, or try and grow in that, because now I'm not looking outwardly like religious ways teach us to do. I'm now realizing the fullness is in me. I'm just discovering that.
Yeah, that's who you are.
That's pretty awesome.
I did want to mention that when we get to do this, we realize who we are. It's not that everybody starts with finger paints, but a lot of us do, and then we'll move on to colored pencils or maybe some chalk, and then eventually we get to the oil paintings, and it's totally okay because the Holy Spirit leads us, and we don't have to be afraid that we're gonna make a mess because it's God.
Yeah, just what you described was what I was shown a while back. And I was shown a lot of what we're doing currently is we're like a 2-year-old drawing an outline. You know how in their first paintings, they're just big kind of like lines. And then as we go on and grow in maturity, we actually get to fill in all the details, and it becomes a lot more detailed because we understand how to create, and we understand how to create in line with heaven's culture.
Yeah, and that's key. Heaven's culture, intimacy, yeah.
So where we were at releasing this everlasting door, weren't we? For which we said was for the 12 star houses, is that right?
Spill it, Eric, if you got it.
I'm sorry, I'll talk too fast or think too fast. The Melchizedek order is about being the new species, the new person. So when we are operating out of New Jerusalem and the new heaven and the new earth, that's the same word, kainos. So when I think when we say restoration, we're really meaning we're creating something brand new. If we're a new creation, we can't help but create something that's really never seen before. Not even it. I don't mean it disrespectfully, but I believe it's going to be better than the old. Even before the fall, it's when we speak out these things and operate in this order, we're creating something very never seen before. Actually,
That is so good.
I agree. There have been times when I was encountering the light of God in the dimensions of light and being one with the Father of light. I saw the light of God radiating from the Father into me and actually expanding out. And I could feel like heaven was expanding, so to speak. And, your brain goes like, what? But heaven is still expanding. Creation is still expanding. And I think sometimes we try to go back to Eden, in the beginning, but I feel like, what Eric said is really on point in the sense that, God is ever increasing in glory, and now we're part of him and co-creating with him and core expanding heaven, which is already here. The new heaven is I believe is already here. And yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
had,
like that expanding.
I apologize, y'all. One more thing. It was he had also what Ms. Glory was correct. It was that he had corrected me. I had in my little minister understanding that we're supposed to keep on creating Eden around us and da da da. He said to some degree that's true, but he made me understand that God wants new things created, and that's why, hence the Salem, when we're creating Salem and other cities for God's glory, or um, even in a physical sense, we can have more than one spiritual city being around one location, is what he was trying to explain to me, or one of the things. So we're like just agreeing with y'all that we're ever increasing and ever expanding.
That scripture that says, what eye hasn't seen, ear hasn't heard, neither has it entered into the heart of man what God has prepared for us, but the Spirit reveals it to us. I think that's what that is. These things
Wow.
that we haven't seen, haven't heard, the Spirit is going to reveal it, is revealing it to us so that we can then participate in it.
Amen.
But is there still a place for doing the preliminaries before that, like releasing an understanding of the star houses?
I think that's part and parcel. It's like the way I saw it was like a control room, like the ephod for some reason, was, you can imagine a control panel, you know, like imagine Star Trek and there, those little things. Well, it's the ephod.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
And you can push them and turn them and have your intent on them and go inside them. But it's like something that links the mechanics together of how God set up everything. And so the short answer is I think so, and it's one of the ways that is a legal way to go about this.
When I was studying some of the old rabbinics with Dr. Ben Hillel David, he was saying that the entire high priest garments does relate to the earth and to the multiverses. So yeah, obviously that the high priest clothing and the different mantles that we keep on getting and the crowns, they all affect our DNA, so we can cause an effect in the spiritual world and in the physical world to start God's creation process also. So the more we take on the clothing that God has given us, the more we're affecting the atmosphere around us also in a stronger and a greater way.
So shall we just open those doors?
Absolutely.
Yes.
With great rejoicing.
And I saw us grabbing each other's hands to do it. It's like we all grabbed each other's hands to do it as a group.
Mm. Yeah, that's good. Let's do that.
Praise you, Jesus. Thank you, Holy Spirit.
Are we supposed to say what we saw as we were
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
that? Okay, as we did that, I heard like whoosh, and there was either water or oil or something being released off of our hands as we were doing that into the atmosphere.
Did you say like you saw like a big whoosh of?
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
I was hearing whoosh,
Like
and
a river.
like a river or something in
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
torrent of, I don't know if it was oil or water, but it was just like coming off of our hands as we were opening the door.
Yeah. I saw exactly the same thing. I saw a massive river come through us, but it was gold, liquid gold. Just
I saw the
whoosh.
same thing, Jane.
Huh?
I saw the same thing. I was in a position in outer space looking down on the earth when I opened the door. And this arched river came out the door down onto the earth. I saw some of the thing. I couldn't tell what color it was, but that's what I saw.
I keep hearing him say the whole earth is filled with his glory. I just hear those words.
Oh, I've just had a bit of a new experience. I've never felt led to do this before, but I actually just felt led to then receive in the atmosphere of the earth the river of gold that was coming through the gate. So it's like another form of receiving. Oh, it's very different.
So you were releasing it and then receiving it, Jane?
Yeah, yeah.
You think that might have to do with the you know, sometimes we release things that were given to release that we don't actually have a carry out in the earth on. But
Yeah.
but maybe having received it in the earth, there's a carry out in the earth for it.
Yeah, yeah, that may well be. Because I have been having these multiple experiences recently where I just feel like there's a what's it, almost like a jug of oil being poured out from heaven, and it's like I sit there with my mouth open and I like receive it. I keep getting that a lot, and this is sort of similar.
That's funny that you said that, because the Lord gave me an encounter sometime last year, actually, maybe, yeah, sometime last year, where I saw like a oil, I just call it an oil room, and there's these little bottles of oil, and you can go in there, and his oil, the oil of Jesus, is on a table in the middle of the room, and it's in a different decanter. But this other oil is on like shelves. And at first, when I went in there, it was all those oil bottles were covered in like dust, like no one's been in there. And he actually had me grab some of those one at a time and release it over some people that were in my life. He gave me names, the smell of the names that go along with it. But then he also has had me go back in there and grab some and actually go with him on in the atmosphere and pour that oil over the earth for people to receive. So it's funny that you said that, Jane. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's good.
So if we release this everlasting door, are we now occupying that in terms of the everlasting doors are meant to be the Lord's everlasting doors into the earth, but there's been other beings, and that's where the demonic has operated. And now we're releasing this everlasting door. Therefore, does that mean that we have the place to occupy there and have a throne there, if I can put it that way? In other words, the throne of the everlasting doors now belongs to the Lord, instead of these everlasting doors that have been held back by the demonic realm that have been occupying. Because Eric asked if we would, does that mean that we have thrones in the earth atmosphere that we're occupying now?
I don't know for sure, but my spirit's resonating with that.
Well, it's like I can't explain it. I know that I want to be respectful in that I know there's different levels of authority, and I don't want to overstep our authority, but I just feels like there's thrones to be occupied in the earth atmosphere right now. And I don't want to be off base, or I just feel that right now, sense that and feel that way right now.
I agree, and I almost feel like it starts with just having the idea on earth, not just having, like, just the knowing is the beginning, in a sense, of that occupying.
That might be another one of those things, these keys of understanding that we need to know how to get more manifestation on the earth. I see there's many keys we just don't understand about actual manifestation. We're doing an awful lot creating in heaven, but
it feels like it's the atmosphere where the enemy tried to show Jesus and offer Jesus on the Mount of Temptation. Well, obviously, we're not being tempted to take it, but I mean, I feel like it's being given to us. And I don't know if I'm right or wrong about that.
Very interesting.
Jane, where you went and received it on earth, I was getting that earlier. So I feel like part of it is we're releasing all this into the earth, and it's a remembering that we're part of the earth as well, in the sense of we're able to receive it that way. I think to me, that's one of the keys, is not forgetting that we're also, a key player, on the earth, just like as in heaven, that we can receive what we've been releasing. So I thought that was confirmation of what I was getting.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting.
I have to wonder about the separation of the body, spirit, and soul. I feel, what we receive in heaven is automatically reflects on the earth. I feel like, this whole separation we've been doing might be bringing a lot of stagnation, if we realize our spirit being is connected to our soul and body, and what we encounter in heaven is going to be released on the earth. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
I think, Glory, what I was saying was that if there's a difference when we release something in heaven that we don't necessarily participate in. In other words, we could release something over a city, over a nation, over a situation.
Okay.
Yeah. But if we release something and then what Jane was experiencing of it in earth could mean that she was to carry it through, then she was to administrate it in the earth. Because some administration we do in heaven, and some administration, and we don't do that in the earth. It's for others to do.
I agree.
Okay, I have a question that's kind of rolling around. I had heard Ian, I thought a long time ago, say something that he was actually creating a planet or something like that. And he was held responsible for the continuation of keeping that planet in the right order, I guess you would say. So is that what we're talking about? Taking that responsibility and continuing to look over like a mother would be for her babies or something like that?
with no jokes, like the more power you have or authority you're given, the more responsibility it is.
I'm pretty sure that that's affirmative. At least everything that I've seen.
I heard Ian do that same teaching or share that same experience about creating things. So I asked him if he had also created a creature, like a human-like creature, to inhabit that planet, and he said he hadn't gotten there yet. So I thought that was an interesting addition.
Shrubbery. Focusing on shrubbery.
So you guys think that this is a good place to end? Are we all at peace with our new revelation of this everlasting door?
Oh, I'm just receiving that on the earth too. It's awesome.
Yeah, pretty much. I just twice now in this encounter, once at the beginning and once now, I just heard the word hologram, and I knew what it was, but I had to look it up. And it just says a 3-dimensional image formed by the interference of light beams from a laser or other coherent light source. So I don't know how that exactly ties in, but it resonates with me as kind of what we're doing.
I agree.
So I kind of still have a question in my mind now. This may be something that we'll have to work out with the Lord. But in the beginning, I saw whenever I saw Melchizedek handing me the stars, and Jane referenced those star houses, he also was handing me like the moon and the sun. So I'm not sure if I'm supposed to do something with that. I'm just a little confused. I've not had that type of thing before. So
Well, the moon and the stars represent, the times and the seasons. So you can have authority over time and space. And also that I'm still trying to understand the astronomy, the Maseroth a little bit better, but there's governing bodies, 7 governing houses over the 12 houses also, kind of like an endocrine system that you might be given authority over those areas too. Because there's a governing, like the sun and moon governs the house of whatever, da 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 da, da kind of thing. The more you research it, but more than likely you're given authority over time and space also, and seasons.
okay.
Oh, I love that about seasons. I'm really resonating on that. The whole spirit's like leaping. I want to take authority over seasons because that shows The seasons are the ages that people are living out of. And a lot of people are saying now most people are living out the kingdom age. But we can actually change that. If we take authority over times and seasons, we can change and accelerate the overall consciousness of society of what age they're living out of.
You know, I'm getting the image of seeing us rotating a dial, if you will, like a time dial, and lining up the houses as we need to in order to manifest things at certain times.
Yes, ma'am. That goes with like each Hebrew. Well, since we live in our time and space, it's like you understand the different Hebrew months and the constellations with that. That's when
Exactly. That's what's on the dial.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and we don't. They don't have to stay as they currently are. I see turning the dial as necessary as we see fit according to what God is wanting to be done, and according to our assignment, if you will. Assignment is kind of rigid, but according to what the Father wants, and so when she said that, I saw it down, and I saw it rotating.
Well, I also saw the dial too, but I saw it as the ages in the dial.
Okay.
They're all kind of interconnected. Yes.
Yeah, I saw the same.
Yeah.
Like without getting weird with astrology and stuff, that's what I'm trying to balance out right now to understand without, because I think that's why other people also, going back to what you said, Miss Jan, that people are scared about the word age because they're like thinking zodiac, Aquarius age or whatever in the back of their head. So I think that's why everybody's a little bit.
Oh, I'd never seen that before. Yeah, but could even have the connotation with New Age as well. So like, I don't want to know about that.
No, I mean, it's the enemy just trying to play word games with people. I mean, we know what we mean, but it's getting rid of trying to find the correct Holy Ghost pathway or wording to say stuff.
Yeah, maybe a season might be a better.
Well, I mean, because when you look up the word age, it actually means eons or whatever. So you can't really get away from it. It's just, it's like trying to make. I tell everybody you can use a hammer to hammer a nail, or you can use a hammer to beat somebody with. It's kind of how you use it.
Right. So one last thing, because I know we need to close. I keep hearing it. I'm going to say, and that is, I see. Well, actually, I see. I think it was Joshua that called the sun to stand still, and he called it to stand still so he could have more time to defeat his enemy. Mm-hmm. And so I guess it's a question coming to me. And so my question is that an example of us as sons restoring the good side of the tribes in the earth? Or, let me see how I'm saying that. Hold on, I'm trying to articulate this. As a form of restoration, which is better than the original of what God really meant when he put the tribes in the earth. I don't feel like I fully pulled that out, but that's the gist of it. But that came to me 3 times, so I just thought I'd say it. Because
Well, we weren't tribes in the beginning, remember? We were
Right,
only tribes after the Tower of Babel, right?
Right, but you know how all the tribes fell and they got corrupted, and how we said earlier how we're trying to restore even back better than the tribes were before they got messed up. I just thought maybe it was a connection between Joshua calling the sun to stand still and him defeating his enemies, and lining the tribes up.
Well, it does make sense, because I was listening to Dr. Paul Cox when you in the book of Judges, there's acts the stars had to fight against the enemy. So when we are starting to correctly align, wrong wording, when we're starting to purge or clean the different storehouses or whatever, they'll start fighting on our side. Is that what you're trying to mean?
Yeah, it's a lot of I have to meditate on it more. It's a lot of intertwining in there, because too, what's coming to me now is how you line up the 12 houses in the groups of 3, and I think that has some significance too. But at this point, I don't know why, but it just came to me. So I don't know. I'm just throwing out what's coming to me. I'm talking about the 12 houses as cubes, which I think are extractions of different dimensions out of Metatron's cube. But that's a whole nother thing. I'm not even trying to take us there, because I know everybody's trying to get off the call.
Well, that's what she was given the ephod for, or we were given the ephod for that, to do that also. Yeah,
I absolutely agree, because in forming the 3 cubes in the sets of 4, I believe that I have a sense that they are extractions or dimensions out of Metatron's cube, and it's a form of how we create. And based on whatever assignment God gives a bench, it's almost like a Rubik's Cube. I think I said this before in another thing, but I see it as a Rubik's Cube, and we rotate the Rubik's Cube, if you will, based on what God is telling us to do. And and when we line them up with the other houses, it allows us to create. But that's very abstract, but that's what I'm seeing. But that's a big tangent, so sorry if I took us off on a way tangent.
But just back to your question, Michelle, about the tribes, I've just asked Wisdom about that. And what I saw is that the tribes did still exist in eternity in the first estate. And they were representative of the star houses, but then they got initially they only sort of appeared in the Bible later on, but the firstborn are those star houses in eternity. You know what I mean?
What's interesting is the order of the tribes changed throughout the Bible as well. So I think so just like I'm saying in terms of the rotating of the cube or the dial or whatever you want to say it. And I think it's some significance to that. And even Dr. O pointed that out, but I'm still processing it.
It's like there's more than one cube.
Yes, there is. There's 12 of them. And to pass from one set to the other, it takes the 7 spirits, because they vouch for you whether you can go on from one to the other. It's almost like a test.
Oh, just one quick point though. Just before I finish, I linked with Melchizedek. Salem, as far as we know, is the city where Melchizedek dwells. And I've been in there a few times, and it definitely seems to be some release of treasury and resources that we can access by going there. And then been going into New Jerusalem a lot, and then asking what Zion is and what the city of Zion is. But I've seen some connection, and there's almost like each one has to bring those places into alignment for themselves. So I do encourage you to go and check out Salem, New Jerusalem, and ask what Zion is. And we're seeing a difference between the mountain of Zion and the city of Zion. Because I think it's all part of the journey of understanding how we eventually operate out of the age of Zion. But often if our spirits are not quite ready, we can't leap to that far thing. I know, like, I couldn't leap to creating stuff. Everything in my spirit was going, no, I don't understand that, I don't follow it. How do I know what I'm creating? So I've had to go on this journey, and I think I'm almost at the point of I'm happy to create, but I think I learned an awful lot about understanding Melchizedek through Salem and the resources. And people are asking a lot of questions about finances and, how do you release finances? And I've still got a big question over that. But I've seen a lot of other resources that are spiritual resources in Salem that I think we can release through that. So there's a sort of a journey there that we can go on. But we should probably finish the recording now.